We finally got local experts for our Chatham, Ontario real estate market. We've got Kelly-Anne and Dane Appleton.
But, Chatham had always been the hidden gem, what we like to call it, of Southwestern Ontario in terms of housing prices.
April 2020, we saw an average home price of just over 296,000. We have hit a new record high for April of 2021 of $424,000. So that is a 43% increase year over year. In April, 35% of the sales in Chatham-Kent were sold by out-of-town realtors.
Yeah, that's really useful information. I appreciate you guys sharing that because that really does kind of give you a perspective here. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and I'm really excited for today's video because we finally got local experts for our Chatham, Ontario real estate market. We've got Kelly-Anne and Dane Appleton. Hey guys, how's it going?
Great,
Hey,
Matt. Good to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to have you guys on this channel. I've talked about Chatham for a long time, about the potential I see in that market, and I've even done a few analysis videos, and recently I've started actually buying apartment buildings in Chatham as well, so this feels like perfect timing. But before we jump into the presentation you guys have for us on Chatham and what's going on in your local market, why don't we just get a little bit of background, because both of you guys have experience as investors as well, right?
Yeah, we do. My husband and I started investing 11 years ago and bought our first property actually in Burlington, and then from there started exclusively investing in Chatham-Kent. So we now hold 14 properties in Chatham-Kent, a mix of single family and multi. And I got into the real estate. I'm actually a retired teacher, and I loved the real estate investing so much that I actually left teaching and became a realtor 7 years ago.
Yep. And I had started investing in 2018, bought a duplex that I house hacked, and that really kickstarted my investment journey. So my wife and I own 5 properties now in Chatham, the mix of multifamily and single family. And I actually came to real estate from a background in law as a paralegal that focused on landlord-tenant board issues. So that's kind of tied into our investing strategies, and also just as an added bonus for our clients that we can give them some guidance on landlord-tenant laws and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's huge. And especially the fact that you guys are investors yourself in this area and have deep roots, that's going to come in very valuable, I think, for the audience, just because one of the big things is a lot of people are attracted to markets like Chatham, but they end up hesitating at wanting to invest there because they don't have the power team, right? Or they don't have the support network. They don't know the maintenance guy or a property manager or a paralegal to be able to help them out if they end up having a sticky situation with a tenant. So that's fantastic to hear. And I'm guessing you guys have a pretty full Rolodex of Chatham experienced vendors.
Oh, we certainly do. Yeah, we have certainly people that we have used over the years. We have a really good network of all of those important people when you are, a property investor, for sure.
Yeah, trades, lawyers, everything in between.
Awesome. And I know you guys have a presentation together with some stats and stuff, and we'll probably get into that in a second. But just one other thing, Dane, you talking about house hacking in Chatham, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years, just because I think we're going to see a lot of people realizing they don't necessarily have to live and work in the same city. And as people are able to kind of become more digital nomads, I suspect lower cost of living areas like Chatham are going to be very attractive to people living in the Golden Horseshoe. So don't know if you guys have any anecdotal experience or stories with that, but I just have a sneaking suspicion we're going to start to see stories like that coming up.
Yeah, it's funny that you actually mentioned that, because one of the deals that we're going to be talking about later in the presentation it was somebody from the GTA area that said, you know what, I can now work basically exclusively from home, and I want to live in Chatham. Chatham, I've heard good things about Chatham. There's lower cost of living, and so he started looking in Chatham and found a great property here. And so we have direct experience with that is happening here in Chatham, and we think it's great.
Yeah, and I imagine you're going to continue to see more of it. So I'm excited to jump into your presentation. So I'm going to pull it here up on screen for everyone. And let's jump into what did you guys see going on in April 2021 for Chatham?
So first of all, we're going to talk about why invest in Chatham. So a lot of people don't really know about Chatham-Kent, or they might have just heard about it. And so we just wanted to give a little bit of information. So we are a population of just over 100,000 people. So that is a mix of different towns. So Chatham is the main hub in Chatham-Kent. We liken it to Toronto as the hub of GTA. And so everything kind of runs through Chatham, but we also have different communities in Chatham-Kent. So maybe you've heard of Ridgetown or Wallaceburg or Blenheim, Tilbury. There's a bunch of different towns in Chatham-Kent that make up what we are. And so there's a mix of urban and rural communities, agriculture, greenhouses. The more that you get out to the counties, you see that stuff. And we're positioned just off the 401 between Windsor and London. So we're about 45 minutes, I would say, from Windsor, and then just about an hour from London. So we're in a really, really good spot where a lot of people are going through, and we're starting to get noticed there.
Yeah. And one of the things that is attractive about Chatham, obviously our housing prices have always been attractive, but we're really positioned really well. If you like recreation and water, we are like 25 minutes from 3 different areas. You go east, west, or south in Chatham, and you hit a body of water.
Yeah.
We're 25 minutes from Rondo Provincial Park, so we've got cottage country here, 400 cottages there. We also have St. Clair College in Chatham, a campus of St. Clair College, which has 1,300 full-time students. So Chatham-Kent is also positioned for student rentals, because in Ridgetown, there is the Ridgetown campus of the University of Guelph, which has 625 full-time students, and it's basically agriculture and veterinary is what students study there.
So in sum, all of that added up together equals reasonable housing prices and good market rents that equal positive cash flow. And you will see later in the presentation that there are some examples where there might be some eye-popping cash flow that is available in Chatham. But yeah, it makes for a really great market for investing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having, subscribers and followers reaching out. I think, again, just as they continue to see prices trend up, people keep looking further down the 401. It being the busiest highway corridor in North America, it just seems like a natural spot to see long-term growth.
For sure.
So we just wanted to share basically what the overall trend has been in the Chatham-Kent market. So we've provided just a graph of some of the prices starting from January of 2012 up until currently in 2021. So you see that basically from 2012 to maybe 2018, it was kind of stagnant, right? Like it's going up and down. And then once we hit 2019, that's when we start to see that curve going up. And since then, from 2019 to 2021, the increase has just been absolutely rapid. It's exploded and kept up with a lot of other cities in the province that have seen this huge increase in housing prices. And Chatham is no different than that. So we just wanted to show basically, how impactful this graph is, because it's just showing us that people are coming here and they want to buy.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see this. Just for comparison for any of the audience, London, Ontario, very similar from like 2012 to 2016, really didn't see a lot of growth. And then we started seeing growth trickle up. And it seems like, again, just kind of working its way down the corridor. But what do you guys kind of attribute to the growth in 2019? Was there anything that you really noticed or saw, or was it just people stopped sleeping on Chatham at that point in time?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, Matt. I think people, I think investors started to notice Chatham.
Yeah.
But also people, as the prices rose in London and Windsor, we started to have people see Chatham-Kent as a viable option. We also started to see more retirees coming in. So not that we want to be known as the retirement capital, but we did start to see some retirees from some of the bigger markets like the GTA who were able to sell their homes there for great prices and retire in a place like Chatham where, you know, they were able to then buy a home with cash and live off of what was left after selling
Mm-hmm.
those GTA homes. So we really started to see that in that 2019 timeframe.
Gotcha. Yeah, appreciate that context.
Okay. So now we want to head into year over year sale prices. And we know that April 2020 was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Obviously. So, you know, you do have to take that with a grain of salt, but really it was in line with where our prices had been just before the pandemic hit. So April 2020, we saw an average home price of just over 296,000. And you can see it has gradually gone up. We have hit a new record high for April of 2021 of $424,000. So that is a 43% increase year over year. And then we did break down just that January time, so that you can see that it still is increasing. So from January 2021, average home sale price was, you know, 343,000, and you can see it has continued just to go up steadily. That March timeframe was a new record for us, where we hit over the $400,000 mark, which was unbelievable for us. Like, when I think back to years ago, I never ever thought we would hit that mark. So, and now we are certainly, we have I'm just trying to find I think it was a 23% increase from January to April in this year, 23% appreciation we're seeing. So huge increase there.
Yeah, it absolutely seems wild on the surface, but I think when we take a step back, right, and as you showed, like from 2012, a lot of Ontario saw price appreciation from 2012 through 2019. You know, London kind of saw it from 2016 on, and it's really, in a way, kind of Chatham just catching up to a certain degree, I think, right?
Yeah, and that's basically what we're saying, is that, you know, Chatham had always been the hidden gem, what we like to call it, of Southwestern Ontario in terms of housing prices. And we had seen the appreciation in Windsor and in London, just the communities around us. And we're finally just, you know, Chatham's just getting late to the party. And you know, the prices are just trying to catch up to everybody else. And that's why we're seeing just this massive growth so quickly. So we just also wanted to touch on that, the active number of listings. So in April 2019, you know, you're seeing your historic normal spring number. So that's around, it's, you know, give or take 400 listings. Now, in terms of April 2020, again, that's where we saw our COVID numbers hit. And so the market had slowed considerably at that time, as you can see, compared to April 2019. But in 2021, we've gone down a bit by 10 listings. And, you know, we're seeing that, okay, we're not totally in that COVID market at this time like we were in 2020, but the listings just haven't gone up, which again is causing some of these housing prices to just go out of control, because the demand is so great and the number of listings are just not on par with that.
Yeah, and that's definitely a story we kind of see across Ontario, right, is depressed inventory levels. And especially, I don't know whether you guys saw an increase in sales volume, but I know that was definitely the case across most of the province, where not only lower inventory, but also higher monthly average sales in volume.
Yeah. So we've also included that the year-over-year average days to sell. So in April 2020, it was about 34 days to sell on the market. And then April 2021, that's 14 days to sell. So again, that's just a massive change there. And, that's an average, remember. So there are houses that are being sold more quickly than that. And there are some that are, selling that they're taking a long time to sell. And I think every market has those properties that it might be a niche property that, the right buyer has to come along, or it might just be a property that isn't really that desirable on the market. But we're seeing that many of the desirable properties, so things that we talk about are, like single family bungalows, maybe brick bungalows that are like a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, or a nice duplex, something like that. We're seeing that the days to sell on those, if we looked at those just in particular, that the days to sell on those properties would be considerably lower than 14 days.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And so, we also wanted to just talk about what homes are selling for. So in April 2021, the sold price to listing price percentage was 111%, 0.6%. So in comparison to 2020, that was 99.1%. So now we're seeing, the average price is across the board is over asking price. Whereas last year we were almost at asking price, but not quite. And so just in March and February as well, at 107% in March, and then almost 102% in February, it's just going up and up. The prices keep going up, and that's the market as a whole. So, it begs the question, what's driving that, right? So limited inventory, as we talked about just I think on the previous slide, pent-up demand. So we're seeing more buyers in the market, more offers. The spring market is historically hot, so it is one of the busiest seasons for real estate is the spring market. And then what we think is one of the biggest factors is the influx of out-of-town buyers and investors.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get into that a little bit more on the next slide here.
Yeah, so what we've seen, and this has been a trend that we've seen over the last year, is that in April, we do stats on this in our office, and in April, 35% of the sales in Chatham-Kent were sold by out-of-town realtors.
Yeah, that's really useful information. I appreciate you guys sharing that, because that really does kind of give you a perspective here.
Yeah, and that's a trend. We've been tracking this in our office, I'd say for probably about 18 months. And it started off as maybe a 20% because we started to see that this was happening quite regularly. And it has just steadily gone up. It's over the last year, it has averaged, I'd say, about 30%. So when you look at 30% of our homes are being sold by out-of-town agents, those people are all coming from out of town. That doesn't even take into account the people coming from out of town who are using local realtors. So we are just seeing a huge influx of buyers and investors from out of town, and that, for us, we believe is what's causing the huge increase in our prices. And as Dane said, like, Chatham-Kent is no longer the hidden gem of Southwestern Ontario. We've been discovered, and people are flocking here because of our prices.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be really interesting to see, how this trend continues, whether you're going to see more and more sales going or related to out-of-town sellers as, more attention just gets shone on Chatham.
And we track the market share as well in terms of brokerages in Chatham. And we're from Royal LePage Piper Realty, so that's the largest brokerage in Chatham-Kent. And normally we hold the largest market share per month. And I think it was last month that it was the first time ever that out-of-town realtors actually were the top brokerage. They were the top group in sales. And so that's pretty staggering to us that there are so many people from out of town who want to buy here. So we're going to jump into a couple deals that are relatively recent. The one is actually just a couple days old, actually. And then the other one is from March, I think. But we're going to go over a multifamily deal and then actually a condo deal.
Awesome.
So the first deal, this was a deal that was actually on the London board that hadn't even hit our board yet. We saw it on realtor.ca, hadn't even hit our MLS system. And we had an interested buyer who really wanted to get into the multifamily market. And you can see in the description that it was owner occupied with a vacant 2-bedroom unit attached. So the owner was actually moving out. So it was a vacant duplex upon closing, which is an investor's dream, right?
Yeah.
So, we were all over this, especially when we knew that the seller, they were not holding offers. And we were there on the day that it went up and had the offer submitted that day. So our buyers, this was listed at $329,900. We submitted an offer of $385,000. That was a cash offer, so no conditions. And there was competition on this deal. On the first day, there were already people all over it. And so our clients were lucky enough to secure this property, and it is a great duplex. So in terms of the market rents, as to what they could be getting for these units. So the first unit that was owner occupied was a really nice 2-bedroom, and it's 1.5 baths, which is kind of unique for a duplex unit like that. And we figured that the market rent on that unit is about $1,300 plus utilities, and the building has all separate utilities, which again is awesome. And the smaller 2-bedroom unit, which is also a good size, but it's maybe not as grand as the first one, we figured that they could get about $1,200 plus for that unit. And so that's, a grand total of $2,500. And the mortgage, at 20%, they were only paying, I think it was about $1,090 was the mortgage payment. And the taxes were, they're dirt cheap at $1,900. And with insurance factored in, and they're local investors, so they don't need any sort of property management, anything like that, because they do it themselves. So when we broke down all the numbers, the cash flow on this building was right around the $1,000 mark.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely hard to come by in this current market. And so just for perspective, this property, was vacant but relatively turnkey, or was there a lot of renovations?
Yeah. So I'm going to see, I do have some pictures.
So the one thing that we were noticing, Matt, is that we know about Chatham is that many properties are turnkey. So I know in other markets, to cash flow, there's rehab or there's, change of use or something that has to be done. What we find in Chatham is that there are many properties you can buy off the MLS and you can cash flow from day one, which we know doesn't happen in many markets anymore. So this, I actually showed the clients this property. It's a beautiful property.
So just to give you some perspective, so this was the main unit, which it has a lot of that old time charm to it. And this was owner occupied. So obviously the owner has taken great care of the unit.
But everything looks, it's been definitely painted the last decade. It looks like the floors look nice and clean.
So, and even the bedrooms and stuff were in good shape. But this is actually the second unit that was vacant. So also in good shape, needed a little bit of flooring and some paint maybe to freshen this up. The brown isn't the best, but that's an easy fix for any investor and cheap. And so just to show you some of and then the outside, there's actually a nice 2-car garage detached as well. You can see the picture at the bottom and really, really good size of that garage, and maybe some potential future income coming from that as well.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys sharing the photos. It just helps illustrate exactly the type of deal that was available in Chatham.
Yeah, so this condo sold to another local investor, and this is a building that is in good walking distance to lots of things. This actually would be within walking distance also to the college. They bought this property for $165,000. So it was listed at $139. There were condo fees are $374, and the taxes were $834. So when you run the numbers on this, they were able to get a rent. They've got a tenant in place for $1,250 inclusive. When you run the numbers, it's about a $300 cash flow. And this unit was all redone, beautiful, brand new carpet, new kitchen. It was a 2-bedroom, but you didn't have to do a thing to it. So again, just goes to show you that there are properties in Chatham that you could still cash flow right off the hop as soon as you buy them.
Yeah, that's great to see, because there definitely is a segment of investors out there that they want that kind of hassle-free landlording experience of, let's just kind of go to the real estate store, buy a property, have it be turnkey, and be able to plug and play it into an existing system. So really appreciate you guys highlighting these 2 deals that recently occurred in Chatham.
And there's one deal that we'd like to talk about that's going to be upcoming, and that's coming from another sector, which is the single family homes, which we're seeing are providing good cash flow for people in Chatham-Kent. The rents are really good on single family homes. So we're just going to briefly talk about this one, and this one's going to be coming onto the market right around the beginning of June. So the first couple of days of June is when it will be hitting the market.
Yeah, so it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. It does have a detached garage, but garage isn't in great shape. So it's fully refinished, all new flooring, new paint, new bathroom. The kitchen was in already good shape, but everything is new in it, completely rewired. Does have a full unfinished basement. And the market rent on that is about $1,500 plus. And we're expecting it's going to be listed somewhere around the $220, $230 mark. And the comps would show that it's probably going to sell in about between $275 and $300. But even if you paid, I ran the numbers at $285 for it. And this, if you were a local, we're not including any property management at this point. So that would obviously have to be included, but this would be another turnkey, and you would cash flow about $200 right off the hop with this one without having to do anything to it.
Gotcha. Yeah, really appreciate you guys bringing up or highlighting that opportunity. And for anyone that's interested, we'll have a contact information for both Kelly-Anne and Dane in the video description down below. So definitely encourage people to jump over if you want to reach out. And I'd love to just pick your guys' brains before we wrap up here. For, let's say I'm an out-of-town buyer and I'm thinking about buying in Chatham. What should I kind of prepare for? It sounds like we're kind of getting into multiple offer scenarios. So, is it important to be able to come with that clean offer that's a cash offer? Should I be able or expecting to be able to get an inspection report? Do you guys mind maybe just laying out some expectations for new investors looking to jump into Chatham?
So I think that, like any other market, we are seeing quite a few cash offers, like offers without conditions. I wouldn't say that that's a must to secure a property in Chatham, but we always tell people that if you're going to have conditions, usually you're going to have to pay for them. In the sense that you have to make it a bit sweeter for a seller if you need a short financing condition or you want a home inspection. Properties are usually listed where they're holding offers, and they're usually holding offers for maybe 5 to 7 days is probably the standard here. And in that time, if somebody really wants an inspection, then we're trying to get them in for an inspection during those days so they can potentially eliminate that clause or maybe walk away from the deal because they found something they didn't like. But we are seeing that there's a lot of competition and there are multiple offers. So the best you can make your offer, or the cleanest offer you can provide the seller, is obviously suggested by us.
And obviously, as you know, we've indicated, you're definitely seeing homes go over asking, especially if it's a desirable. If it's a desirable multifamily or a single family, something that an investor would be interested in, you can almost guarantee it's going to go over. And we have seen anywhere from, you know, 5,000 over up to 100,000. It's not unusual for us to be seeing those numbers now. I know some other markets tend to price really low and then get these 200,000 over asking. That's really not happening in Chatham, but you can expect that you're definitely going to be paying, on average, probably 50,000 over asking if the asking price is reasonable. Sometimes we're seeing places that are overpriced, obviously, and then you're not going to see that. But most agents in Chatham are not using that strategy of pricing incredibly low to see who can get the highest percentage over.
Yeah.
You know, I know I've had some calls from people who are looking in the Windsor market too, who are saying, okay, you've got this price on this. Does this mean it's going to go 200 over asking? That's not what we're seeing. That's not what we're seeing in Chatham right now.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys sharing those perspectives, and love the data deep dive, and especially you guys bringing a couple real life deals that recently occurred in Chatham. I know that really helps illustrate for the audience what's possible from an investor perspective. So again, if you guys are interested in investing in Chatham, want to encourage you guys to reach out to Kelly-Anne or Dane. We'll have their contact information in the video description down below. If you guys got value from this video, smash the like button, hit subscribe. And we're looking forward to bringing you more great Chatham content in the future as well. And again, just really appreciate you guys sharing both your personal experiences as investors, as well as your perspective as realtors on this market, because I think we're going to hear it coming up more and more in the future as investors look for markets that are actually able to hit the return metrics that they want to see.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. And we're happy to provide any sort of info or chat with anybody who wants to just know about the Chatham market, or there's a couple deals that they want to toss numbers on. We're more than happy to chat. We love the Chatham real estate market.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And again, as always, for the audience, it's important you start building these relationships before you need them. So the time to call Kelly-Anne and Dane is not like the day you want to make the offer. Ideally, you call them, weeks in advance, build up a relationship, get to know each other, and really figure out, what is the right type of property, and lean upon their local expertise, because that's really, like, in my opinion, that's what's going to separate the best deals. The out of town investors, you guys were polite enough not to say it, but I think that for me, I've got a bias. When I see an out of town realtor list a property, I almost always assume it's a deal, because it's usually mispriced just because they're not as dialed into the exact local market. And so, that'd be my sneaking suspicion for the one deal that maybe you guys showcased. But I know here in London, as soon as I see that X on the MLS that tells me it's an out of board or an out of this board realtor that listed it, I naturally know that I assume there's a bit of an advantage there. So again, I think if you guys want an advantage, the key is having local experts on your team. Link in the video description down below. And again, really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Matt.